Ahead on Up with KREM, Spokane City Council is making it harder for landlords to evict tenants, but there are some exceptions. More coming up.
And this weekend, we're going to be tracking rain for the first time in a while. We'll have the latest on when to expect some wet weather.
Plus, experts expect Americans to wager more than $1.5 billion on the Super Bowl. What that means for Washington casinos.
Up with KREM begins now.
Good morning and thank you for starting your day here with us on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones. Over in the Weather Center, we've got meteorologist Thomas Patrick keeping us up to date with all of the latest weather conditions on this fine Super Bowl weekend. Thomas, how you doing? And what can we expect in terms of the weather?
I'd love to take credit for making the weather maps as blue and green as possible, but kind of ends up that way when you see 40s and 30s on the map, because 40s would be green and 30s would be blue. But you know what? Call it Seahawks pride for this weekend. We will have a mix of temperatures largely in the 40s, maybe a couple spots just barely getting to 50 degrees if we see some sunshine. However, I think today is going to be actually a quite rainy day, or at least a rainy evening for us. Big storm system about to press into the Pacific Northwest here, so plenty of rain really throughout the region. For Spokane, for eastern Washington, I expect that rain to start either late afternoon or early evening. The first wave of what could be a pretty rainy stretch of weather between Saturday night and most of the day Sunday.
Well, right now, the Idaho State Senate is introducing a bill restricting when law enforcement can use facial coverings. Senator Janie Warden-Jelking, the bill sponsor, says it's similar to legislation pending in Utah and Washington. Idaho's bill does not specify an certain or specific law enforcement agency, unlike in other states that specifically name ICE as the primary subject. The bill would restrict law enforcement officers from wearing items that conceal or obscure their face, but there's some exceptions, like a clear face shield or a medical mask to protect against exposure to harmful environmental conditions. Well, starting this summer, renters in Spokane can participate in a new eviction prevention program. It's called the Pathway for Eviction Diversion Program. Spokane City Council passed it 5-2 this week. It's an ordinance that streamlines the process of tenants getting money to prevent eviction. This means once a landlord sends an eviction notice, a tenant has 5 days to send a written notice to their landlord to participate in the program and then go over what options they have.
Those programs do exist to help people, and it is to try to get the money through so that the landlords can get paid, but it can be hard to find that information.
For many small rental housing providers, delays like this is not theoretical. A few months without rent can be the difference between keeping the property and having to sell it.
Landlords can still evict people if there are health and safety risks, a threat of harm, or criminal activity. The ordinance is set to go into effect on June 1st. And the council also agreed to continue the conversation about the Immigration Enforcement Free Zones ordinance. Documents show that if the ordinance is passed, immigration enforcement will need a judicial warrant to detain people on city-owned property. The ordinance aims to protect immigrants and refugees and claims to decrease incidents of profiling. The council plans to vote on the ordinance on February 23rd. And hundreds of miles away in the Bay Area, more concerns about immigration enforcement. This just one day before the Super Bowl. Some people living in the Bay Area says ICE is not welcome in their community. The NFL says there are no scheduled ICE operations at the big game or their other events.
There are no planned ICE or immigration enforcement operations that are scheduled around the Super Bowl or any of the Super Bowl related events.
With the Super Bowl being tomorrow, there's a lot on the line for the Seahawks. Same goes for fans placing bets on the game across the state. Brady Wakayama shows us how the big game is expected to attract big business for casinos here in Washington.
We're here at Muckleshoot Casino Sportsbook. Staff say this will be the place to be come Super Bowl Sunday. They expect thousands of bets to be placed between now and kickoff.
So people are excited. They're definitely waiting on the edge of their seat for this one.
Excitement is building for Seahawks Nation, especially at tribal casinos in the state like Muckleshoot.
It's gonna be crazy in here. It's gonna be shoulder to shoulder. People are gonna be excited, and truly around the whole casino, you're gonna feel the excitement from every single person.
Sports betting has been legal in Washington since 2021, but you can only wager in person at tribal casinos or online while you're on tribal property.
You're going to have so many people come in and make bets that have never made a sports bet before, haven't even thought about it before. So we see people from all over the state come up here.
Muckleshoot Sportsbook supervisor Andrew Ellingson expects more than $5 million in Super Bowl wagers. That's more than double what it's been like in previous Super Bowls when the Hawks weren't in it. Hawks head into the Super Bowl as 4.5-point favorites over the Patriots. And if you placed your bet on the Hawks to win it all before the season, you're looking pretty smart right now.
Odds were about 30 to 1 for them to win the NFC, which they just did. So off $10, you'd win $300. Off $100, you'd win $3,000. And it's just gonna be doubled for the Super Bowl, where they're about 65 to 1. So $100, you get 6,500 back.
People are betting on much more than just the outcome of the game.
The Super Bowl, we have thousands of bets, no matter how you want to do it, whether you want to bet on the coin toss, whether you want to bet on someone to get a first half touchdown, whether you get the third touchdown.
There's a lot at stake for the big game. One sure bet, the 12s will be cheering on the team until the final whistle.
Go Hawks, and hope to see you down here.
And Muckleshoot Sportsbook plans on extending its hours for Super Bowl Sunday. It will be open from 6 a.m. until midnight. In Auburn, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
And coming up, a foundation dedicated to athlete mental health and its connection to Seahawks player Abe Lucas. And later, a house divided and a baby due on Super Bowl Sunday. One young family's story coming up. Tomorrow, former Washington State offensive lineman Abe Lucas is representing the Cougs here on the NFL's biggest stage. The Washington native helped bring the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, and Lucas is also using the big stage to remember former teammate Tyler Helinski and talk about mental health. KREM 2's Caitlin Galloway spoke to Helinski's family.
Coug fans likely recognize the cause featured on Seahawks offensive lineman Abe Lucas's cleats this season, Helinski's Hope.
It means a lot to us, and we're just so excited for him and all of the Pacific Northwest, for what they're going to experience this Sunday.
Kim and Mark Helinski created the foundation in honor of their son, Tyler, who died by suicide in 2018. Abe Lucas played with Helinski in his first year at Washington State. While Kim and Mark didn't know Lucas personally, he was part of a team that supported them after the loss of their son.
We hugged every single player, and Abe must have been one of them. And they all took a knee, in front of us. I can't even tell you how powerful, how emotional that was. And so underneath it all, underneath the pads and the helmets, and they're just big, wonderful guys with big hearts.
The foundation's mission is to raise awareness and provide mental health resources for student athletes. Mark Helinski says while they're grateful for the support, he's even more grateful it's creating opportunities to talk about mental health.
Those are the little things that are, hey, that's great, because they had to talk about it. They had to think about it. They had to talk to an agent or a manager, and, is this okay? Is that okay?
Outside of asking Lucas what his favorite Tyler story is, they'd love to find out more about his passion for mental health awareness and to thank him for bringing awareness to football's biggest stage.
The fact that you're willing, to do this in a way that leads others to see it, leads us to talk about it, you're only increasing our reach and our mission to make sure nobody suffers in silence.
Reporting for KREM 2 News, Caitlin Galloway.
It's another mild day, as it will be all weekend, but we'll start to see our first rain chances later today. Your weather impact forecast is coming up.
All right, it's almost the big game, and a Washington couple has the ultimate Super Bowl showdown. She's a diehard Seahawks fan, and he bleeds Patriots red and blue. And their first child just so happens to be due on game day. Brady Wakayama caught up with the soon-to-be parents as they gear up for parenthood and the big game.
It means family. Really, football means family for us.
This football family is getting closer to the end zone.
Well, it just seemed that the stars aligned.
Soon to be adding a member to their team.
Due on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday.
Isabella Crane and her husband Brady are diehard football fans. She's a proud 12, while Brady...
I wore it with pride. I always had Patriots gear on, and maybe a little bit obnoxious about it, but...
This couple's dedication to their teams is on an even playing field. Oh! This is a video recorded last summer on the 50-yard line of the Central Washington University football field, where the couple worked at the time. A game-changing moment they'll never forget.
Sweet baby girl.
She's gonna be a Hawks fan. Maybe she'll be a Patriots fan.
Isabella's friend organized this gender reveal for the couple. Since they received a Seahawks onesie, their baby is a girl. If it was a Patriots outfit, it would have meant a boy is on the way.
To be honest, I thought that I was going to be like, oh man, it's Seahawks. But I remember looking at it and it's like, oh my gosh. The first thing you thought about was picturing your baby girl wearing that and just how cute it was going to be. So no, it was awesome. Like, and just seeing her face and just how excited she was.
Every touchdown since feels like a countdown to game day and delivery day.
This one's pretty cute.
I think the Seahawks, of course.
This one comes with a lot of rings.
And I think the green will bring out the color of her eyes, no matter what color they are.
They might not see eye to eye on which team colors look better on their newborn, but they both agree. If their little girl decides to make her debut on Super Bowl Sunday, that's a championship moment they'll cherish forever.
Healthy baby girl is all we can ask for, and that is the biggest win of all. Seahawks for the girls.
Hell yeah.
Reporting for King 5 News, I'm Brady Wakayama.
All right, we finally got to the weekend. Hopefully we're kind of done with the fog that we had during the work week here. Honestly, with the storm system passing through, I'm less concerned about fog and really more focused in on when it's going to rain. And that will start later today and certainly Sunday, looking like the rainier of these next 2 days. In the meantime, temperatures are still mild, but we won't be hitting that 50-degree mark like some did, especially in Pullman, getting some record highs from last week. So today's temperatures feel pretty stable, just mid-40s for the most part, with the cloud cover here basically all day long. It'll really depend on how much rain we could get in the afternoon as a storm system is approaching at this stage. Here's what the latest on our computer modeling is simulating. The rain gets here at about 3-4 o'clock for Spokane. I definitely think the evening looks pretty wet, and honestly with this kind of north to south covering the entirety of the inland northwest, everyone should pick up at least a little rain. Obviously, some spots might linger a little bit longer than others. So a pretty wet evening for sure, just is a matter of when does those first raindrops fall. I'd give that between about like 3 to 6 o'clock this evening. Now on Sunday, this is an odd scenario. I think Sunday is actually the rainier of the 2 days. I'm expecting some more widespread rain. However, our modeling that we use, which looks like it did a pretty good job finding the Saturday rainfall, does not find the Sunday rainfall in the same capacity. It kept it more in our southern areas. So we'll see how that splits for tomorrow. But honestly, the total amount of rain looked pretty even from north to south. It wasn't necessarily more to the south and less to the north. It was about a ½ inch for most everyone. That between today and tomorrow combined. So a pretty wet weekend because a ½ inch of rain is actually pretty good for us. Usually we only get a couple hundredths of an inch at a time. Now looking into the extended outlook here, I think next weekend around Valentine's Day, we'll start to see a shift in our weather pattern. Cooler at first, plenty of mountain snow, which is a very good sign for the inner mountain west of the Rocky Mountains, as well as the higher Cascades on the west side. I think mountain snow is looking very likely. Valley snow, not sure just yet, but the long-term outlook is definitely going to start to look wetter than average. It's just a matter if we can get it cold enough for lowland snow, but mountain snow is looking likely really by next weekend and beyond.
And still ahead, we take you to Western Washington to show you some of the most beautiful places in the state. That ideal weekend getaway just after the break.
Chances are your childhood treehouse was not as elegant or ornate as the one that overlooks the raging river in Washington. It also probably didn't have plumbing. These are the high-flying rooms at Treehouse Point in Fall City.
How high are we up here?
From the bottom of the forest floor to the top, it's 200 feet.
If you're looking to conquer your fear of heights, General Manager Abby Rodriguez says this is probably the most comfortable place to do it.
I mean, absolutely, because why wouldn't you want to conquer your fears where you know you're going to be also in a very, very comfortable bed at night?
There are 7 tree houses and 3 ground units at Treehouse Point, and there's 2 ways to see them. Book a room or book a walking tour. Who knows? You might even bunk up next to a celebrity.
We actually had Brian McKnight here a couple months ago. We've had Macklemore here. We've had, some of them have been a little bit more incognito that I can't tell you about.
I'm Pete Nelson, the Treehouse Man.
One celebrity I unfortunately didn't run into was TV host Pete Nelson and lead builder at Treehouse Point.
It was called Treehouse Masters. It was on Animal Planet for 11 seasons. It was not just Pete, it was his whole family. So you got to see Judy, you got to see the boys, Henry and Charlie, and Emily.
Pete Nelson's been building tree houses since he was a kid, and his family opened up Treehouse Point in 2006 as a way to expose more people to life in the trees.
We've gotten further and further away from the natural order, and so sleeping in a treehouse brings you back to that balance. And we are pretty unplugged here. We have Wi-Fi available in the lodges, but in most of the tree houses, there's no Wi-Fi.
Each treehouse here is different. Some have a more classic look, while others, like the Ananda House, are full of amenities and accessible to everyone.
And inside, it is incredibly luxurious and spacious because it is the first ever ADA compliant treehouse in Washington State.
Abby says a growing clientele at Treehouse Point are lovers looking to elope or have a unique wedding.
And one wedding in particular stood out to us, Marta and John. They had a Legend of Zelda theme wedding, and they cut their cake with the sword from Legend of Zelda.
Whether you're trying to conquer your fear of heights or rekindle those childhood treehouse memories, this is a great place to experience nature and admire the fine treehouse craftsmanship.
From Treehouse Point in Fall City, Washington, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
Well, with this warm winter we've had, you can probably guess how our snowpack is doing. Yeah, not so great. Experts break down some of the potential impacts coming up. Ahead on Up with KREM, there are more e-bikes on the road, but the law isn't keeping up with them. How Idaho is trying to update outdated laws. Plus, behind on your car tabs, Washington could raise the price on late fees. Here's how much it could cost you. And later, itching to get out of town? Well, we've got 2 ways for you to travel around the world. That's coming up.
Up with KREM begins now.
Hi there, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for starting your morning here with us on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones, and over in the Weather Center, we've got meteorologist Thomas Patrick, always working hard to keep us up to date with the latest weather conditions. Thomas, how are you feeling, my friend, and what should we know?
Yeah, it's been another busy week in the weather department. A bit of fog here or there from these past couple days, but the one consistent has been the warmth, or at least the afternoon warmth. And today is looking similar in that regard as well. Our high temperatures should be able to quite easily get into the mid 40s for most. Still looking at a few spots in southeastern Washington, including Pullman, to hit 52 degrees. The one difference that we're expecting this weekend is rain. A bit of a storm system will hit the Pacific Northwest, west side at first today, and then we will get our fair share of rain. It's not just a chance for rain this evening, but tomorrow, not only rain likely, but probably a washout for Sunday. The thing, though, is that even with the cloud cover and even with the rain, our temperatures don't really budge all that much. It will still be a mild forecast, even with this rainy February setup.
All right, well, as Thomas keeps us up to date on the weather, the snowpack across the Pacific Northwest is well below normal. Experts say it's a troubling sign for the season, and it could be the worst snow drought on record. It's because of the exceptionally warm winter temperatures.
What should be snowfall at this time of the year is falling as rain, which obviously doesn't do anything for the snowpack, but it can also rapidly melt any bit of snow that might be there. The other part of that too is just the fact that we haven't seen as many winter events to come through.
Climate scientists say it could have lasting effects through the summer without the snow melting snowpack into rivers and streams. experts warn we could face increased wildfire risk and pressure on water supplies. Even if colder weather returns later this winter, it's unlikely to be enough to rebuild the snowpack. Well, Idahoans could soon be paying more at the pump because of the Utah legislator. About 3 million gallons of oil go from Utah to Idaho every day, and a new bill is proposing a change to Utah's refinery tax. Utah's legislator could soon hear a bill outlining how oil gets taxed before it's shipped out of state. If this bill were to go into effect, it could increase average gas prices in Idaho by 25 cents. Idaho Speaker Mike Moyle says the state may pursue legal action if the bill is passed. He believes it's unconstitutional under the Commerce Clause. A bill aimed at clarifying Idaho's traffic laws around e-bikes is moving forward at the State House. House Bill 500 comes after a teen cyclist riding an e-bike was hit back in October of 2024. The driver involved in the accident was cited, but the case was dismissed in court because current laws in Idaho don't clearly address e-bikes. Supporters of the bill told the Idaho House Judiciary and Rules Committee the ruling exposed a loophole in state code.
And I don't think the legislature meant to say to the public, you have an obligation to avoid colliding with traditional cyclists, but you don't have a pass on colliding with electric assisted bicycles.
If House Bill 500 passes, this would update state law requiring drivers to exercise due care around e-bikes while enforcing the same traffic rules as other vehicles. Meantime, in Washington, drivers who fall behind on car tabs could soon pay a lot more. A new bill would increase fines. On your screen right now is a look at the fines for late tabs. Supporters say the extra charges would boost funding for roads, but critics argue it could punish people who cannot afford the fees if this becomes law. Well, switching gears now, it's time for a recap of the top stories on KREM.com this week. We begin with a strange pest that the White House is monitoring. Colonies of a dangerous parasitic fly are raising alarms just south of the U.S. border. New cases of the New World screwworm have been found in Mexico, just 70 miles from Texas. The pest poses a serious threat to America's $600 billion livestock industry. The White House is closely monitoring the risk. Texas governor issued a disaster declaration with neighboring states on alert, all preparing in case the screwworm crosses north. A week ago, 3 teens were accused of kidnapping and torturing a 19-year-old. The victim called Spokane's police, saying he was lured into an apartment in North Spokane. He was tied to a chair, beaten, stripped of his clothes and belongings. Then the attackers allegedly held a knife to his throat and pointed guns at him. All 5 suspects are under 18 years old. They were arrested, and 3 of them will be charged as adults because of first-degree kidnapping charges. And the mild weather we've been having this winter means some Spokane County roads will soon have weight restrictions. The restrictions do not typically affect a normal car or truck, but as the ground thaws, heavy vehicles and trailers can do some serious damage to the roads. There's no specific date yet for when the restrictions begin because it depends on weather and road conditions. Well, a trip around the world may sound like something only found in an adventure novel, but more Americans are choosing to embark on the epic journey in lavish style or a more budget fashion. Wendy Gillette shares how to make it a reality.
Live from Peru.
Retiree Randy Goodwin from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, clearly embraced every part of his recent private jet trip around the world with the travel agency Safran's Dumont.
New horizon, new adventure.
From a luxury Belmont train to see the wonders of Machu Picchu, absorbing the culture of Easter Island in Chile, and its stone statues, the indulgence of an overwater bungalow room at Conrad Bora Bora Nui in French Polynesia.
So this is the main street of Sydney.
To walking some of the world's great capital cities and ancient sites. Goodwin and his fellow passengers experienced a whirlwind 9-destination jaunt around the world.
I love it. It's quick, efficient.
The World Tour makes the same stops every fall. The journey lasts almost a month, limited to 50 guests on board.
It's a life-changing experience.
Paired with an onboard bar cart and lounge area. The company, born in France, invited us on a portion of the trip. which features French champagne and wine and a native chef on board.
We are very happy to be French and very proud, so we want to share that.
The trip starts at a cool $100,000, part of Goodwin's travel-heavy retirement strategy.
Like everything else, you got to plan for it. It just doesn't happen. So this is the brass ring at the end of the long road.
There are more budget brass rings, using saved points or miles, or working with an around-the-world specialty travel agency like AirTrex.
One thing that people might find surprising is that an around-the-world ticket can be purchased for as little as $3,000 or maybe 150,000 miles.
Star Alliance and One World offer round-the-world tickets through their partners. There are tight restrictions, such as a minimum and maximum number of flights, starting and ending in the same country, and traveling east or west with no backtracking. But it could still be your ticket around the world in 80 days, or just 18.
Alrighty, coming up, we'll take you back to the archives to the Seahawks' very first Super Bowl appearance. Do you remember it? And later, an iconic character from the Harry Potter movies is popping up all over China. We'll tell you why. Well, this weekend, the Seahawks are adding a new page to the history books. But before the big game, let's go ahead and flip back 20 years and see what was going on before the Hawks' very first Super Bowl appearance.
They are two words you couldn't escape today. Fans up high and down low came to Westlake Center just to say them. The noontime rally had close to 1,000 fans, including a man with Seahawk blue suede shoes.
One for the money, a two for the show, a three to right now. Go cat go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoes.
You'd be hard-pressed to find any Steeler signs in Seattle. The 12th man flag hangs proudly. The fish are now swimming in green and blue. And even one local church says, God doesn't take sides, but we do.
Rushing for a good spot once the gates to the North Annex opened at 7. This was their way to send off their team. A chance to bid bon voyage to the NFC champions on the verge of what will be a frantic Super Bowl week in Detroit for the team.
We love this town. We love Seattle. We love living here. We love our franchise. There's only one thing missing in Seattle, though, and we all know what it is, and we're going to go get it done.
This is my temporary foam trophy, just to symbolize what we are going to get next week, turned into real sterling silver.
And if that Vince Lombardi trophy makes it to the Emerald City, brace yourself, because even as it is, this week is going to be sheer
pandemonium. Absolutely. It's history for Seattle. Yeah, it's history, and we're ready for it.
In Seattle, Ray Lane, King 5 News.
Alrighty, another opportunity for some history this weekend, and it's awesome to remember the excitement before Super Bowl 40, but some of us also might remember how fans were feeling after that game. Tune in to Up with KREM tomorrow for a look at a post-Super Bowl feelings in Spokane back in 2006. And if you're watching the big game tomorrow, we hope you've got some great things to snack on. But if you still need to run to the store, we'll tell you which Super Bowl staples are cheaper this year. Well, earlier this week, we asked you about your favorite Super Bowl foods. These were some of your answers right here. Someone said, gotta have the 7-layer dip for halftime. Ooh, soft pretzels and beer cheese dip. I just need pizza. That's how I feel personally. Definitely wings. I think we're going with some wings and pizza. Someone else said pigs in a blanket and paired up with some Sprite. Classic chips and salsa, of course. So all good answers, and really, it just all kind of depends on what you're in the mood for, but nonetheless, got to get some good food in. Those all sound delicious, and we all know tomorrow won't just be about football, though. It's all about that food as well. And this year, you can score by paying less for at least one Super Bowl party staple. Here's a look at pricing on some of those popular snacks.
At Duffy Sports Grill in Miami Beach, Stephanie Langford told us Super Bowl Sunday she'll be at a sports bar cheering on New England.
If it's my team, if it's the Patriots,
I got to be out and make people mad.
Still, she and Seahawks fans will likely be sharing the same game day snack favorites.
Wings, I like fried mushrooms, nachos.
Jesse Gavilanes will be at the bar too, with his own game plan.
I like spicy wings. So I have to be buffalo and spicy. We start out a little soft and then head on to the spiciness.
Chicken wings are the most popular item on the menu at Duffy's, Florida's largest family-owned sports bar chain.
Annually, we sell about 6.4 million wings. So if you line those up, end to end, you could go from here to Jacksonville.
So it is no surprise that this Sunday is also their big game day. Duffy CEO Joe Webb.
Before the game, it's all pickup. We're sending thousands of wings home with people. And then it changes where everybody wants to be inside.
Some wing enthusiasts may see a price break.
Chicken's down because we produced about 2.5% more chicken last year than the year before. So lots of chicken out there in the market.
Wells Fargo economist Michael Swanson says it's not the only game day staple with a lower price.
Some of the real big favorites for Super Bowl are actually down from a year ago.
Wings are down nearly 3%. Avocados are also down, along with tortilla chips and frozen pizza.
While chicken wings are a bargain and cheaper avocados will keep your guac prices down, a colorful veggie tray is likely to cost more.
Cauliflower is up 4%. Cherry tomatoes and celery are both up about 2%. The most expensive food items this year will be beef and shrimp. So plan ahead if you're watching the game and your wallet. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Miami Beach.
All right, we finally got to the weekend. Hopefully we're kind of done with the fog that we had during the work week here. Honestly, with the storm system passing through, I'm less concerned about fog and really more focused in on when it's going to rain. And that will start later today and certainly Sunday, looking like the rainier of these next 2 days. In the meantime, temperatures are still mild, but we won't be hitting that 50-degree mark like some did, especially in Pullman, getting some record highs from last week. So today's temperatures feel pretty stable, just mid-40s for the most part, with the cloud cover here basically all day long. It'll really depend on how much rain we could get in the afternoon as a storm system is approaching at this stage. Here's what the latest on our computer modeling is simulating. The rain gets here at about 3-4 o'clock for Spokane. I definitely think the evening looks pretty wet, and honestly with this kind of north to south covering the entirety of the inland northwest, everyone should pick up at least a little rain. Obviously, some spots might linger a little bit longer than others. So a pretty wet evening for sure, just is a matter of when does those first raindrops fall. I'd give that between about like 3 to 6 o'clock this evening. Now on Sunday, this is an odd scenario. I think Sunday is actually the rainier of the 2 days. I'm expecting some more widespread rain. However, our modeling that we use, which looks like it did a pretty good job finding the Saturday rainfall, does not find the Sunday rainfall in the same capacity. It kept it more in our southern areas. So we'll see how that splits for tomorrow. But honestly, the total amount of rain looked pretty even from north to south. It wasn't necessarily more to the south and less to the north. It was about a ½ an inch for most everyone. That between today and tomorrow combined. So a pretty wet weekend because a ½ an inch of rain is actually pretty good for us. Usually we only get a couple hundredths of an inch at a time. Now looking into the extended outlook here, I think next weekend around Valentine's Day, we'll start to see a shift in our weather pattern. Cooler at first, plenty of mountain snow, which is a very good sign for the inner mountain west of the Rocky Mountains, as well as the higher Cascades on the west side. I think mountain snow is looking very likely. Valley snow, not sure just yet, but the long-term outlook is definitely going to start to look wetter than average. It's just a matter if we can get it cold enough for lowland snow, but mountain snow is looking likely really by next weekend and beyond.
Still coming up, Disneyland's spookiest spot could soon be its sappiest. Coming up, how much it costs to book the Haunted Mansion for a wedding. All right, this one may make you crack a smile here, Thomas, because a Harry Potter villain has cast a spell on China, an entire country ahead of the Lunar New Year.
What do you got?
So, images of Draco Malfoy keep popping up ahead of the Year of the Horse. In Mandarin, Malfoy can roughly sound like horses are bringing good luck. Red posters with well-wishing messages are typical decorations for the annual celebration. This year, many feature the grin of the infamous Hogwarts bully.
I find that funny
Yeah.
because, that's the young Draco Malfoy.
Yeah.
And you say that Draco in Mandarin sounds like horse, but Draco in English sounds like dragon.
Yeah.
And it was just the year of the dragon.
Ah,
so kind of feels fitting in one way or another.
Exactly. And then,
Yeah, super cool. And also check this out. If you're planning a wedding, a new venue for you to consider, the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland.
Wow.
If you want to reserve the courtyard of the mansion for your big day, it will cost you $40,000.
goodness gracious.
There are a few catches. You can only invite 25 people, and the ceremony has to be over before the park opens to the public. So most days, that would be 8 a.m. So you need a little money, and you need to make it early.
$40,000 you said, and you can only invite 25 people? Oh my
And it's done by 8 a.m.
What do you think about
Interesting. I think that's a little on the pricey side, though I do know weddings can get quite pricey.
Yeah.
And I know that there are couples that are all in on Disney-themed weddings. So for them, $40,000 is probably no option.
Well, they say love doesn't have a price, right?
That's exactly right.
What do you think our engineer Nikolai is behind the camera shaking his head? He's like, no. So
no thanks.
I would personally have to forego that option.
That would
as well.
be instead of, the after party,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
the party goes on at Disneyland.
Yeah.
You're just ready to go to Disneyland after the wedding. So
I'm ready to
I
go
can
to
see that.
Disney. I'm a Disney World kind of guy, though.
That's right.
So
little Central Florida.
Exactly. Thomas understands it, But Thomas, thank you for all of the weather information. Thank you for waking up and watching and hanging out with us here on Up with KREM. We will see you back here tomorrow morning.